Here's a good one for you, considering my building's always under construction. Do you want to hear a joke about construction? I'm still working on it. I'm Matt Howes, and this is Shits and Giggles, a podcast for dads. Well, hey there, winners. Welcome back to another wonderful episode of the amazing show known only as Shits and Giggles, a podcast for dads. I'm Matt Howes, and I have looked into the flower of life. I've seen the conjugations. I've seen, and the waves are expressed in motion are expressed in waves are expressed in curves. And then how can you find the straight lines? Am I right, guys? I mean, how complicated is what I just said? No, of course, that is a slanty quote. I didn't quite get the whole thing. It's like a slant rhyme. I just kind of ballparked it from the one and only Terrence Howard when he talks about whatever the fuck he's got going on right now. But I do think it's a wonderful way to start off a great new episode. I am Matt Howes. Guys, here I am every week coming at you from every side. And just letting you know what's going on, keeping you posted, rocking the Casbah, if you will. And the Sharif don't like it. You understand? Anyway, I have had such a wonderful week, to be honest. I had yesterday, Monday, I had off because of the presidents. That was wonderful. And I just got to spend a lot of time with my bubbas, my little baby. It was phenomenal. Since I had also Penny's Daycare was closed yesterday, so I spent a lot of time with her. That was a blast. I love little daddy-daughter time. Sarah had to go to work. And had some fun times. Get the giggles, had a couple of shits, and there you go. I guess before I do anything, I'm going to just slide on into the DMs of our favorite segment, a little bit of advice. Here's a pretty good tip for you, daycare dwellers. My wife and I have recently started making the bottles beforehand in the evening. We make a bunch at nighttime and then pop those suckers into the cooled bag and bring them to daycare. Now, you may have already thought of that, but it was something we weren't doing. We were making them in the morning, and that was kind of cramping our style. Now that she's sleeping in her crib very well, we wake her up most of the time. Sometimes she goes to bed at 7 and then she wakes up on her own. But when she goes to bed at 9, that's her bedtime. We wake her up, and so now we can sleep in. We're trying to get in that sense of normalcy back. She's really only waking up twice a night. So having even just an extra half an hour where you're not making, washing, and it's a constant process. We always have a pile of bottles, but having a bunch of bottles just ready to go. We one day got up, got dressed, put the bottles in, and boom, she was out the door. And that was a fun little bit of dad advice. A friend of mine, Mason, reached out to me recently about how I came up with the idea for the name and the logo for the show and all that fun stuff. And Mason, I will reach out to you later. I realize I have been remiss in my duties to respond back to you because I've been a bit busy. But I figure other people might be interested to know that story as well. It's actually not as complicated as you might think. I decided maybe a month after my daughter was born, I wanted to do a podcast, as I love doing podcasts. And by the way, as you know, I have my favorite catchphrases. I used to have a podcast called Matt in the Man Cave where I reviewed video games. We basically just shot the shit with a couple other co-hosts. And just so you know how creative I am, my current Hey There winners and my quote, vaccinate your kids or keep them the hell away from mine, my kid is better than your kid, are really creative. The Matt in the Man Cave catchphrases were, hello, everybody, started every episode, but it was obviously very creative. And what ended every episode was, as I say here every week on Matt in the Man Cave, or I'll do it and as I say here every week on Matt in the Man Cave, see you later. Yes, that was our trademark catchphrase. So I did 50 episodes of that show before we called it quits. Just became a little stale for me, and so I really had the itch to do. I had all the equipment for the most part. Again, I've upgraded very much since I kind of did a basic rig to start this up, and I just really had that itch to do the show. I really want to do a show, and I'm like, you know what? I will probably always have infinite amounts of content for is raising my kid. And it's also something, as I've said before in the show a million times, having a baby and raising my daughter are literally all I've ever wanted in life. My end game has always been married with kids, and I got it. I'm so excited for it, and I want to spread the word. And now I'm in a position to be able to give advice to several people in my life, plus all of you out there, for some of the things that I've found, little workarounds that I've had to do in parenting. And so this podcast was born out of just that kind of itch to get back. And again, this is kind of, even for me, even if I had no listeners, and thank you all for listening, by the way, if I had no listeners, I would probably still be doing this just because it's a very good way for me to decompress every week. It's a vacuum in here, and I need to vent every once in a while. As for the logo, I went on to Fiverr, actually. It's a place where you can hire freelancers and tell them the ballpark of what you want, and they'll design a logo for you. And so I had this gentleman design me Shits and Giggles, a podcast for dads. And I said, I saw on his samples one that had a microphone on it. And I said, I kind of like that one. I like this rustic old school style. It's minimalistic, but it conveys a message that it's a radio show or a podcast. And I mean, the name itself does as well. And so that's where I went to get the logo. And that, I mean, it's very inexpensive if you're going to be doing anything like that, because you pay maybe $15 for the lowest, and then they'll give you a couple different variants. I have a few variants. I paid about $45 to $50 for my logo, and I own the rights to it as well. That's another thing about these freelancers, is they actually give you the rights, whereas you can use it professionally and not have to worry about someone coming after you for copyright infringement. And for the show title, as I fucking love my show title, but I shot myself in the fucking foot with advertising, because no one will run an ad for me because it has the word shit in the title. Though Facebook, I finally argued with them, and I got one that's going on at just in perpetuity, because if I cancel it, I know they won't let me do it again. I cannot advertise with Shits and Giggles. It's not a lot of places will do it, because the word shit's so scary. Oh, and I've talked about this before, but like, it's so ridiculous that shit is, and you can't self-censor it. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I've damn near given up on most kinds of advertising. I can go on all kinds of, there's ways I can do marketing, and I think that we're reaching out the right people just by word of mouth in the different groups. But as for the name came from me reaching out on Facebook to people. I'm like, I kind of want to start a dad podcast. What do you think? And I actually kind of had that Shits and Giggles title kicking around in my head, but I'm like, oh, I'll never do that. And my friend John, whose wedding I just went to a couple weeks ago, suggested Shits and Giggles. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. We're going to do Shits and Giggles, a podcast for dads. And that's how the name came about. And I love it. I think it's a great show name. It's catchy. People want to see it. It's not an inappropriate show by any stretch of the term, but people want to keep me. The man's trying to keep me down because I'm using the word shit. Okay. Well, guess what? I don't give a shit. But yeah, so that's pretty much the story. I as much as I wish I could have said I've done this since the moment Penny was born, obviously there was too much to do. I definitely didn't have the time. And as you saw in my New Year's episode, if you waited all the way to the end past the disclaimer, you're gonna hear my first attempt at an episode, which was just so low energy, and I never would have approved it on the way out the door. It was horrible. Yeah, jeez, that was a bad one. But so Mason, I'll go into answering any of your questions. I'll talk to you about this later. But I figure if you're still hanging on listening, this will be a good. If anybody else has an idea they want to do something, Fiverr I recommend for logo design. It's very easy. They get back to you in a day, sometimes less. And just come up with something catchy for a title. And yeah, but you got to be passionate about your subject matter. You understand? I loved video games. I still do, but like it became irritating to do a new something every week. It wasn't as fun for me. My daughter is my everything. So I'm very passionate about her. So I highly doubt I'm ever going to get irritated about doing this show. Do I want to record every week? Some weeks I don't, some weeks I do. But I make sure to get you guys a show and keep everything going on because you stick around for me, so I will stick around for you. All right, let's dive into it. Dive into that prepared material. You know, this is kind of a weird thing, but I was thinking about the phrase throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Okay, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You're familiar, you've heard the phrase before, I'm sure, but I realized I'm driving down the freeway and I was like, shit, do you know how many babies had to have been thrown out with the bathwater for that to actually become a phrase? Like, that shit doesn't stick around one time it happens. Okay, we're never going to do it again. Like, throw the baby out with the bathwater. It must have happened so frequently that it was an epidemic. And people to this day are still using it as a term to not throw the good ideas out with the bad parts, I guess. And I was thinking about that. I'm imagining a world where you're walking down the street and I pour these poor babies. And so all of a sudden you just have a bucket of bathwater fall on you and a baby. Hopefully you caught it. But it's terrifying. The old world was horrifying. And like this, I'm surprised as a society we made it through, to be honest with you. Because it was just looking at these shows, and I know that not everything's a true enactment, but thinking about how there was no plumbing, clean water was difficult to find. And it was just slowly crawling out of them. I've had my monthly bath, my dear. Like, how stinky everybody was. And then throwing the baby out with the bathwater, that phrase. I called my wife in the middle of the day, out of nowhere. And I was like, you know what I was thinking? And she was like, what? And I'm like, how many babies must have been thrown out with the bathwater for that to be a long-lasting phrase that we say on a regular basis? And she laughed her ass off because this is the random things I'll call my wife with throughout the day. I'm like, this random thought came into my head. I'd like your opinion about it. But I'd like all your opinions about it as well. I just want to touch on that. I thought that was a very sad thing to think about. But just, you know, like these phrases come from, all these like colloquialisms actually come from something that happened. You know, a dingo ate my baby. A dingo ate someone's baby. Like, it happened. So it's crazy to think about. All right, Valentine's Day, guys. Moving on to a better subject. Valentine's Day has come and gone, and here we are, another year out, another Valentine's Day passed, another Hallmark holiday away. And every holiday, actually, I get my wife a gold dip rose from Steven Singer. Feel free to visit him at IHateStevenSinger.com. I am not sponsored by Steven Singer, but I do vehemently and passionately love not only his jewelry, but these gold dip roses in different colors. It's amazing. I get my wife one of those for every holiday, birthdays, Christmas, just one, and they're I almost have a full dozen. And they're sitting up there gorgeous, but I didn't have time to get her one this year. But I did there, mates. I did get her something greater than that, I think. I got her the gift of memories. I go to collage.com and you can make a book, like a photo book. And I think about this. Our parents, I have a photo book of physical printed out pictures from disposable cameras and the like that I have in my house. And I realized nobody really does that as much today. And it's nice to have that physical book. So I was sitting there with my wife, actually. I found about 102 pictures that I wanted, and it only cost me about $50. And I got this photo book. Of course, we were going to buy it later, and then I decided to buy it for her for Valentine's Day because I'm like, oh, it's not that much. I'll get it for her. You know, and it's a nice gesture. And she loved it. But like, and they scattered out to like a couple pages have 2, a couple pages have 3, and it's just a really, really nice kind of gift to get. And I think about how like, I'm going to try and make a bunch of these from start to finish. So I have from her birth up until about a month into her life. And I want to try and maybe make a bunch of these, you know, as a great, thoughtful gift to have all these books. And they're not very expensive. So, like, you can do that on a budget. And then you have those memories forever. You can pass those down and Bob's your uncle. Do whatever you need to do. But I thought it was cool for Valentine's Day. And, you know, it's all about the thoughts. And being thoughtful doesn't need to cost you a shit ton of money. You don't have to spend $10 million on your wife or girlfriend to express how you love them and everything like that. It's just that gift, it made her cry when I gave it to her. And so that was my Valentine's Day gift. I hope everyone else's went smoothly. We do the best we can here in this world, and we got to try to remember, as some of the conversation I had with my wife actually, is we got to try to remember that we do have our daughter, but it's also important that you work on your relationship as well. It's very important that you don't let having your child completely take over your emotional spectrum, because you don't want the relationship that you once had that caused you to have this child for them to wither and die. You know, I refer back to the gospel of the Sims. If friendship or relationships are like plants, if you don't water them, they'll never grow. And sometimes in the infinite cascade of tasks, the myriad of things that are constantly at your hands when having a child that's awake anyways, when she's asleep, maybe you get a few minutes, I get a couple hours sometimes, but you forget that you have a person in your life who loves you, and that you love them, and you want to make sure that they're taken care of just like your child. You know, it's weird because you go from being a couple to having a third person in there, and so much love for my daughter, and I have so much love for my wife, but focus has tiredness and all the things you got to do. Sometimes you forget. So I had a conversation. I'm like, I'm going to make sure that I give you the same love and respect that I always have, So you can think about that, take that under your wing, if you will. But just remember, you can't, your kid's 100%, don't get me wrong. But your wife is in there, your girlfriend's in there too, whoever you got with you, and you're in this together. But don't forget that you have to nurture each other the same way. Don't let the intimacy die. Whatever, everything's fine between me and my wife. But I was realizing I'm obviously spending a lot more time, with Penny, and I just wanted to make sure that she realized how much I love her and everything. And we got a date night coming up actually, so I'm very excited about that. We actually got Valentine's. We're the parents now who are getting holiday presents for the classmates. We got a bunch of presents for Penny's daycare classmates for Valentine's Day, and we will be doing St. Patrick's Day. That will be fun. We will be doing every other holiday because we're going to be the parents that people like. You know what I mean? We want to be liked by we want to meet some of these daycare kids' parents. Maybe we're all going to the same place. Maybe we'll all have a good time hanging out, having a good time. So I think we got the kids like these little teethers, those little crispy wafers that they like so much. And boy, Penny loves those. And a little card to my friend, my classmate or whatever. My wife made them up, but we're going to do it. That's what we're going to keep it up. I guess this kind of ties into what I was just saying. Let's talk about alone time for a minute. Everything is so busy and hectic, especially when you have a young baby. And you sometimes forget self-care is very important. My wife gets up for work earlier than I have to and takes my daughter to daycare, and I get about 2 hours or an hour where I get to just kind of fuck off to myself, And I'm realizing more and more how important having moments to yourself is. I always make sure that my wife has time to herself if she wants it. I encourage her to take time. I'm like, I'll go take Penny out for a drive. But it's kind of a minute for you to unpack, decompress, and just relax for a minute, knowing that your baby is in good hands, that you can sit down and not have to worry about emergency diaper change or something like that. And alone time is very important. Keep your sanity level up, much like sleeping is very important. You think that going back to newborns, if you are having a newborn, if you think that you're not supposed to go down when they go down, you're going to have a rough go of it, because that's going to be, the nighttime is going to be the worst. So when they fall asleep, they'll go sleep for hours sometimes. You also need to go to sleep. But having that little bit, even if it's a half an hour, 45 minutes of alone time, just to yourself, is really important to kind of just get your thoughts together and recharge the batteries so you can get right back into the game. Being a parent is amazing, but it is draining. I wish we could all say that we had the Energizer Bunny, clapping along next to us, but I think we're Duracell. We might have to just be recharged every once in a while. And that's why alone time, self-care, it's very important. It's something you forget about. Again, with this alone time and self-care, nurturing your relationship with your wife or your girlfriend, also very important. Things that you can forget about that are really, it's very important that you keep on top of these things. And, all I can tell you is that as much as I enjoy my 5 minutes to myself or an hour, I do love being a parent more, but you need to have a few minutes to yourself. End all be all. For instance, we just flew to Boston with Penny. It was a phenomenal time. She was an amazing baby flying. Actually, one addendum I have to add to the Boston recap of last week is on our flight back, we actually had 6 of the same passengers that were flying there, and the steward was the exact same one, and they all came over to say hi to Penny a second time. He's like, "Oh, we remember you," and I'm like, "So yes, I guess my baby is the most beautiful baby on the face of the earth," because that's what I agree. But my boss, as a gracious gift for my hard work this year and for my bonus, he's bought me a vacation to Las Vegas of 2 days, 3 nights, 2 night, 3 days stay, whatever, the weekend essentially. 3 days, 2 nights. There it is. In Vegas, a really nice hotel, and it's just going to be me and the wife. It's going to be amazing. You know what I mean? That and a little cheddar, a little kashish, little smackaroonies to do some gambling, and it's going to be awesome. I haven't been to Vegas, honestly, really since I was an adult, and the one time I was there when I was over 21, we had a very short night because we were on a cross-country road trip to California, actually, to drop off my friend Luke. But I am excited to go to Vegas with my wife. I'm excited to have a weekend where we can be with each other, and it's just, Penny's going to stay with the in-laws. We're going to probably make $1 million. And then, of course, you'll soon be seeing the Shits and Giggles, a Podcast for Dads TV show that'll be coming out that I'll be self-producing. Because we're obviously going to just walk in there and win $1 million. But this is part of the alone time. You need alone time as a couple as well. And this weekend vacation, as much as I'm going to miss and Sarah's going to miss Penny, it's well needed. This has been, we've had 2 nights where Penny was at the in-laws, and you need to have those times. And I'm very excited about this, as much as I'll miss my daughter, but this is like a weekend in Vegas. As far as I'm concerned, we're just going to come back millionaires, and I'll tell you all about it. But yeah, that's one of the big things. Keeping yourself, have dates, have vacations, enjoy yourself. But self-care, people. I don't know how much I can, because you can really if you don't take care of yourself, you're going to start having real problems. That's all I can say. I'm thinking about people who just don't sleep and they don't take care of themselves, and you eventually have like a mental breakdown. So just remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint, parenting. And I mean, it feels like a sprint half the time, but it's a marathon at a sprinter's pace, we'll call it. That's that for self-care. All right. One other thing I have here is I feel like my child at daycare is like the gang leader. They all the teachers, the preschool or daycare ladies are constantly clamoring for her. But when she gets there, she's like the leader of the pack, even though she can't walk yet. I feel like she's, bossing people around. She has a friend who she made friends with, and this is told by me by the daycare people. She made friends with her by smacking her on the head a bunch of times. And then later they became friends. I don't know how that works, but maybe caveman style. That's some instinctual shit. But being a leader this early in life, being a gang leader, that shows initiative. I feel like she's going to do well later in life. She's either going to be a leader of a company, or she's going to be a dictator. And if she's a dictator, she's going to have us as parents, and we're going to at least be protected. I'll try, hey, maybe you shouldn't be a dictator. But at the same time, like, as long as you take care of us and our friends, of course, you, the listeners, well, everyone who listens to Shits and Giggles will be fine. But no, she's just, I feel like she gets along so well with the kids at daycare. She doesn't have problems being there. She never really has big breakdowns, and she like literally interacts with everyone there. So yeah, she's the gang leader in my opinion. Whatever. One weird thing, you guys, here's something that I feel like you all can kind of wrap around with me. I get when I'm alone, as I just so sometimes I'll be sleeping, and sometimes it'll be with the baby monitor on and she's in the other room. I hear phantom cries all the time. I feel like I'm so tuned in to hearing her cry so I can go and take care of whatever's wrong. And that's not hovering. It's just I don't like hearing her crying. Usually it's not out of nothing. She's got a diaper. She's got to be fed. I hear these phantom cries all the time. Like I'll be half asleep and I'll hear one, and then I'm like, oh, she's not even here. She's at daycare. Or I'll hear it through the baby monitor. Last night I heard like 4 through the baby monitor, and I'm like, I'm not even kidding you. It wasn't even just like sometimes they will wake up in the middle of the night, make one little cry, and go back to bed. I have that monitor on. I roll over, not a movement. It's like it whenever they move, my monitor immediately turns on. And every time I hear these phantom cries, there's no one there. So I don't know what was in this house before we were here, but I'm hoping it's not some kind of creepy baby ghost. But it's just something like when you tune into something that's very important, child, I feel your brain hears those noises in other things. I'll hear the dishwasher come on in the other room, or the rainmaker somewhere, and I'll just for instance, we have a noisemaker, and we just had this leak in our apartment that went in through the fixture in the bathroom. So the guy upstairs left this fucking water running, and so it started pouring through our ceiling. I'm hearing this sound. I'm home alone. I'm hearing this sound for half hour, 45 minutes. I am convinced it is our noisemaker in Penny's room left on, so I'm not worried about it. I get up. I look, I'm like, why is it coming from the bathroom? I look, there's just a pool of water coming down from the ceiling. Luckily, no long-term damage. We cleaned it up. They came and fixed it right away. Wasn't a burst pipe, thank God. It was this idiot upstairs. Oh, I mean, he's an old guy, so maybe he's just forgetful. But he left his fucking water on. It could have. And thank God it was in the bathroom and not at anywhere else, because it would destroy this house. It's not a great built apartment. So there's that. But yeah, these things where I'm like thinking one thing is another. But I hear like full on baby cries sometimes, and there's no one in the house. And I swear to God, it's just my brain playing tricks on me. And that's about that. I feel anyone who listens intently to the baby monitor has these same issues that I have. And that's the way the cookie crumbles. I'm Bruce Nolan. Well, that's about that for the prepared material. I guess I call it prepared material, like the Dadly News isn't prepared material, but I feel like this is the material that I myself prepared, and the Dadly News is what the material that whatever website I ordered it from or I found it on all prepared for itself. And boy, do we got a doozy for you. So, without further ado, and no further delay, and not 1 minute to spare, we will not make you wait 1 second further. We are coming at you with one of the greatest segments ever to be heard from in all the realms. Not tomorrow, not next month, not even in an hour, but right now, here it comes, the Dadly News. The Dadly News is brought to you by Hard Hats and Bibs. Who are they, you may ask? They are a group of men and women who aim to show that it does not matter what gender you are. Parenting is an even distribution of responsibilities. It's time to break stigmas. There's a lot more to them than just that, but you can learn more yourself by going to their Facebook page by searching Hard Hats and Bibs. You can reach out to them by email at hardhatsandbibs@gmail.com, and they are also on Instagram and the Twitter. Again, if you are promoting any sort of parental equality or father's rights, stuff like that, I am on board with it every day, all day, any day of the week. Now into our segment from the Good News Network. That's a great name for a website. Super dad delivers baby at home using just one hand since his other arm was in a cast. This devoted dad managed to deliver his own baby at home using just one hand after his wife went into labor and gave birth on their couch. Reese Darby has been left with just one working arm after he took a nasty fall during a friendly football game and broke his thumb in 3 places. For 8 weeks, Darby's left arm was in a bright blue plaster cast that stretched from his knuckles to the middle of his forearm. Despite the handicap, however, 28-year-old Darby succeeded in delivering his baby daughter Ariana by safely catching her in one hand, all while simultaneously juggling towels and a cell phone. Darby's 24-year-old girlfriend, Jade Brown, went into labor in the middle of the night at their home in Sunderland, England, last summer. I had the cast on one hand and the phone in the other, trying to deliver a baby, recalled Darby. I was running around trying to find towels while the woman on the line was trying to give me instructions. I bent down and stuck my hand out, and the baby just came out. The ambulance arrived in 2 minutes later, and they cut the umbilical cord. I said, "It's all right. I've done your job for you." It's funny, Jade was adamant in the run-up that she didn't want me to hear, Jade was adamant in the run-up that she didn't want me near the business area during the birth, he quipped. I should have brought my baseball glove, then it would have been fine, but it was quite scary. A week earlier, Brown's water had broke and she bent down to pick up a sock. Shortly after arriving at the hospital, they were sent home because she had not been dilated enough. We were told to come back the next afternoon if nothing happened and they would start her off. So we went home, says Darby. Jade tried to get some sleep, but 2 a.m. the pain was overwhelming. Brown added, I was trying to just breathe through the contractions, but they were getting more intense, so I went downstairs and sat with Reese. I was squeezing his hand every time I got a contraction, but as time went on, I couldn't cope with the pain and told Reese we needed to go to the hospital. They called for a taxi, but when the things got more serious, Darby called 999, that is the 911 of England, and was connected to an operator who told him the ambulance was on the way. When the situation escalated further, however, he had to get involved. After a few pushes, our baby girl, Ariana, was born on the SETI. That's some English thing, I'm sure. Says Brown, I remember lying with her on my chest, and I couldn't believe how quick it all happened. Ariana's official time of birth was at 4:23 a.m. Jade had no pain relief apart from a couple of paracetamol and some gas and air in the ambulance, recalls Darby. I had wanted to do the honor of cutting the umbilical cord, but the paramedics said I shouldn't because of the situation. Apparently, we were quite lucky. Lots of stuff could have gone wrong, and Ariana is a miracle. Really, she was conceived 2 months after Jade had a miscarriage. Wow, Brown added, I was so glad that Reese got to be so involved with the birth of our baby, and I am so proud of him for delivering her, especially with the cast on his arm. He was amazing during and after the birth, and he's an amazing dad to Ariana. Wow. There's a lot of things in there. There's a lot. I too did not want to be on the business end of my wife giving birth. As I've told you before, she tried to go natural. It didn't work out. She was in labor for 38 hours. This woman just drops one out in a couple of minutes. Boom, done. I mean, I'm proud of her. Don't get me wrong, but wow. And going back to he broke his arm playing football. At least he was better at catching his daughter than he was catching the football. Oh, hey. But that's crazy. I think I said, I did in one of the controversial parenting talks. Home birth for me is a no-no. Unless it's an emergency. I'm not going to shit on these people for doing it. But I will say that's fucking crazy. I'm proud of them. Everything went good. But again, they even said, you heard what they said it through the paramedics, and everyone told them it was very dangerous and very difficult to do anything, at home. So it's good to hear that they did it all just fine, but I'm trying to put myself in that situation. And with a cast on his arm, that's why I picked this one. I'm like, that guy is multi-talented, and I'm pretty sure he has like some major clout with his wife at this point. Be like, oh, remember that time I delivered our baby with a cast on my arm? I think you could pull that one out forever. Oh, and then you got it with the kid. The kid's like, I don't want to, Dad. Like, oh, hey, Ariana, I delivered you with a cast on my arm at home. So clean your fucking room. So he's going to have clout for days. I mean, he has clout with me. I got to tell you, I'm proud of that guy. Like, go for it, man. Yeah, I can't imagine being in that situation. My wife had a very different birth story, definitely a lot longer. And I'm not going to gauge her pain level, but for sure she had, they forced her water to break at the hospital, my wife, but yeah, I can't imagine. I would do it. Listen, I'll do what I have to do, but in no way do I want to see the business end of a baby coming out. I have no interest in that. I love my daughter. I would not love her any less. I would not love my wife any less, but I liked that they had the tarp up when they pulled her out. I'm okay with all this stuff, but I'm not a fan. I don't want to see this baby coming out of a vagina. And that's what my wife didn't want me to see it either. This isn't like a weird thing where I'm like, oh, I don't want, she's like, no, I don't want you down there either. No, why would I want to be down there? I'll just be up there consoling you. But if push came to shove and, pushing came to baby, I would do it. I wouldn't say we would thrive. I'd say we'd survive, but that's the deadly news. And now we get to wrap up with everyone's favorite sayings, because this is everyone's favorite podcast. So why don't we just go down to the river And we're going to sing about, where is my penny at developmentally? Where is my penny at developmentally? Oh, where is my penny at developmentally? Say, where is she at developmentally? All right, Penny Development segment coming at you from every top of the hour. WDID, Penny Development. I'm telling you, I will make one of these days an episode that's just all me, radio announcer voice. WDAD, coming at you. Well, we got Alan on the line. What are you doing, Alan? Tell me more about your life. Okay, all right. But Penny Development, simple. We have been trying to feed her. She is not eating very well. She's pushing out the food mostly. She's getting some of it by mistake, if I think. Honestly, I feel like some of it just goes in because happenstance. I don't really think it's that huge of a problem. She's just learning how to do it. My wife, on the other hand, thinks she has some kind of tongue thingy that could be bad. And I said, okay, put it on the list and we'll go to the doctor and we'll talk about it. I don't know the deal for it. She's explained it to me, and I just think, honestly, she's doing just fine. She's a little bubba's. She's my cutie patootie. And, yeah, but we're trying to get her fed. We're feeding her the regular way, but solid foods, I guess, are what we're having the difficulty with right now. She's working on her vowels more. We're getting her letters, I guess, because she's doing a lot of and she's getting there. Dada's getting thrown out every few minutes. Love it. Makes my heart sing, whether or not she knows it's about me. 7 months, actually, I realized that shushing still really helps her get to sleep. I've put her to sleep for a couple hours. Sometimes she'll wake up a little bit. Just put your hand on her chest and shh, 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 and it works really, really well. So there's a little tip there for you, a little ending vice for you. And, yeah, I mean, honestly, she's growing. She's huge. I can't wait until our next doctor's appointment. I'm going to read you the whole thing. Again, she has the biggest head there ever was, and I love it. That big old head, my little melon head baby. And that means she's got a big brain, and she's smart, kid. And, yeah, she's just happy all the time. Very rarely is she upset unless it's time to feed her, time to get her a diaper change. And that smile, man, you got a kid, you got a baby around my age or younger, when you look at them and they just give you that toothless little, and she's got 2 teeth coming in on the bottom. They're getting out pretty big now, too. She's biting me, and I'm feeling it's very painful. But, yeah, that's Penny's development for the most part. Nothing to write home about necessarily. But, yeah, that's about it, guys. I wanted to talk to you all about Cave-In Productions. You may not know this, but I write movie scripts. I've written a movie script. I've written a TV show. I've done a couple things here and there, and are all under the guise, including this podcast, my old podcast, and my wife's podcast. They're all under the guise of Cave-In Productions. So soon there will be a website, caveinproductions.com, where you'll be able to find all cool stuff about our shows. All my old projects will be probably uploaded on there, and it'll be really fun. It'll also be a place where my wife's going to set up merchandising for her show, and maybe I'll do the same for mine at some point. But it'll be a nice hub where you can get all of our Twitter and Instagram and Facebook will all be on there. You'll be all in it. Get a contact form. It'll be easy. It's kind of linking everything together. And yeah, it's just going to be cool. You'll be able to stay up to date with all the Cave-In Productions. So, in case y'all didn't know, that's my jam. That's my production company. And I love it. And I think it's a cool name. Yeah. So, anyways, guys, I am here to thank you once again. We are pushing great numbers. We just got a shit ton of new subscribers. I keep people constantly reaching out, as I always say this, and they're asking me where to find the show. If you have a friend who wants to tell them, they can find it literally on any platform. We're on Spotify. We're on Pandora. We're on literally anywhere you can find podcasts, you can find Shits and Giggles. I say the exact line at the end of the show in the disclaimer. And all I can ask of you guys, besides the fact that you've been such great listeners, all I can ask is that you find a friend of yours or acquaintance or someone's about to have a baby and share the wealth. If you enjoy this and you think it's a good, helpful resource of information for dads, then it's your responsibility as an American to share it with people. But I wholeheartedly can't thank you all enough for making my dream a reality of being a successful podcaster, and I feel like that is where I am right now. So I'm going to leave you, as I do every week, with my world-famous words of wisdom. My kid is better than your kid, and vaccinate your kids or keep them the hell away from mine. I'm Matt Howes, and this has been Shits and Giggles, a podcast for dads. You've just listened to one dad's perspective on parenting. This show is not meant to be an authority on how you should raise your kids. Did you enjoy the show? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share on social media. Leave a review. Anywhere that you can find and download podcasts, you can find Shits and Giggles. Find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at shitsandgigs42 with 2 G's. Email us at shitsandgigs42@gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube as well by searching for Shits and Giggles, a podcast for dads. Don't forget, you can also call the hotline to leave a quick story about you as a parent at 818-835-2350. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.